Hello and welcome back to the news from Kazakhstan. I'm Nurbek Savitahunov and we are now back on schedule. A major car accident on Sunday, August 19th in Akmola region claimed the lives of 16 people and injured 22. The collision took place on the Almaty-Yekaterinburg highway between a freight truck, a shuttle bus and a passenger car.
As reported by the Internal Affairs Press Service, the blame for the tragedy lies with the truck driver. The 34-year-old Astana resident crossed into the oncoming lane and crashed into the bus en route from Astana to Karaganda. The vehicle following behind failed to avoid the collision as well. The truck driver survived the accident while more than a half of the bus's passengers died. The accident is currently under investigation. As a result, 15 passengers died at the site of the accident. There were a total of 26 passengers in the bus. Another person was reported dead later in the day.
Kazakh news agency reports, citing informed sources, that the ex-governor of Atara region, Bergey Ruskaliyev, was detained on Monday, August 20th. Newspaper Golos Respubliki clarifies the arrest took place at 5:30 a.m. on August 19th, as the official attempted to depart for Moscow. The Ministry of Internal Affairs press service did not comment on Ruskaliyev's possible detention, advising instead to contact the financial police, which investigates cases of corruption. However, Ruskaliyev's case has not yet reached the agency. A similar response was offered by the Prosecutor General's office.
The General Prosecutor's Office has no information regarding this case, therefore I don't have anything to share either. Bergey Ruskaliyev was born in Atarau region and served as Atarau mayor since February 2006, becoming the governor of the oil-rich region by October and replacing Aslan Musin, the current head of the president's administration. Ruskaliyev governed the region for 6 years before being dismissed on August 15th following the visit of President Nursultan Nazarbayev to the region. The head of the state gave no explanation to his decision at the time. Later, the official media reported that the 45-year-old official actually resigned from his position voluntarily due to poor health. The ex-governor will be remembered locally for large-scale construction projects, which produced 15,000 apartments in the last 5 years. The trial of the former Atarau mayor Selimjan Nakpayev, sentenced to 4 years, and the controversial last decree to ban public kindergartens from accepting children of oil workers. Experts consider Ruskaliyev as a member of Aslan Musin's team, and his resignation from the office is linked with the weakening position of the president's administration head. According to some media speculation, the governor is allegedly under house arrest, while several other officials of the region could have been detained as well. Ruskaliyev was succeeded by Bakhtakoja Izmukhambetov, the acting governor of West Kazakhstan region.
In the meantime, cabinet reshuffling continued on Monday in Atarau. After Bergey Ruskaliyev, it became known that Deputy Governor Mirike Ismuratov, Chief of Staff Askar Dozbayev, and Atarau City Mayor Askar Kerimov were all dismissed. The newly appointed Chief of Staff became Ali Muhammad Kutumuratov, the Deputy Governor Gumar Shimbayev, and First Deputy Shungus Mukanov. Leadership in the area's law enforcement agencies has also changed. Armanjal Mukhanbetov took charge of the Department of Internal Affairs, replacing Rakhmatjan Dosanov, who was officially transferred to the Interior Ministry Reserve. The new mayor of Atarau became Serik Aydarbayev, who was earlier Deputy Governor of the region. In other news, on Monday, hearings in the cases of Volga Party leader Vladimir Kozlov, public activist Serik Sapargali, and labor union activist Akhjanat Aminov continued in an Aktau special court. The start of the third day of hearings was overshadowed by the news of the passing of Vladimir Kozlov's attorney, Alexei Plugov's mother. He had to absent himself from the process for the time being.
Defendant Vladimir Kozlov asked the court to postpone the hearing to a later date, but Judge Mirzabekov decided there were no grounds to do that. It appears the rights of the accused have not been violated since a second lawyer is present in the courtroom. The confrontation between the former chief of the oil company Kiikbay Yeshmanov and the former government official Amangildi Aytkulov, which continued on Monday, looked more like a reunion. The information that the order to set up Yurtsin Square was given by Aytkulov in his former capacity of the regional administration deputy head has not been confirmed. confirmed. Aytkulov has abandoned his own prior testimonies, and Yeshmanov stated that he might have testified in the state of anger. After the confrontation, the court summoned Kazakstan's former trade union leader Natalia Sokolova. The 1.5-hour cross-interrogation mostly dealt with the intricacies of the labor code. Defense lawyer Batiyeva even requested the prosecutors to stay on topic, and the judge agreed that it is not necessary to retell the entire labor code with all its intricacies. It is worth noting that Sokolova's testimony in Russian was misinterpreted in the hearing protocol. For instance, her statement, "This is what I was accused of," was translated as "This was part of my responsibilities." Everything is based on some rumors, general impressions and wild guesses. No one heard specifically what the accused was saying. What exactly were their allegedly hate-inciting speeches? It is not clear what else they have done except supporting strikers. You know, I was surprised when the prosecutor questioned Sokolova and attempted to use her answers as proof that talks of a payment formula in the chemical industry in Karaganda region are actually the only main reason for disorders or December 16 tragedy. Following Sokolova, the court summoned a pensioner and then a participant of a criminal case against the former chief of Ozyanmunaygas company, Taras Hituov. At the time, the latter was the enterprise's deputy director general and as such responsible for its operations. All these testimonies only proved that there were attempts to resolve the conflict between oil workers and the employer, and that every time the opposition leaders visited protesters, the latter became unmanageable as a result of meeting with them. There were complaints that Zhanaozen residents started watching K+ more instead of state-run channels Khabar or Kazakhstan, which according to the prosecution witnesses has affected the people's moods. The hearing itself is semi-closed, despite the authorities claiming otherwise. Judge Murzabekov banned reporters to make any audio and video recordings. When someone is in trouble, moral support is the key. This moral support was provided in our case. It was a labor argument that could have been solved in 15 days, a month at most, but not a single MP or regional authorities were interested. If they were at least a little bit concerned about the people, they would have come over and resolved this.
Also on Monday, one of Alga party activists, Fatima Kasenova, was detained. She, along with other party members, distributed leaflets to passers-by containing information on the trial of Vladimir Kozlov, Serik Saparghali, and Akshanat Aminov.
The protest lasted only for about 10 minutes. Police officers and prosecutors at the scene demanded the people to stop distributing leaflets and later seized them altogether, while the leader of the party's East Kazakhstan branch was taken to the police department. We are associates and supporters of Vladimir Kozlov, and we want more people in the province capital to know more about the progress of the trial of the renowned public activist.
Человеком над известным общественным деятелем назвать нельзя.
Kasenova was charged with a violation of the Administrative Code's law on peaceful assembly. The police also attempted to criminally charge her with influencing the course of the trial, but Kasenova flatly refused to sign the protocol. The woman was finally released after the 3-hour-long questioning session, with the proceedings suspended due to her age.
Старший помощник прокурора попытался вручить мне
First Assistant Prosecutor tried to issue me a warning regarding violation of the law on peaceful assembly, as well as a criminal charge implying that I was influencing the court and the way the trial was going. However, I refused to sign the papers as I believe that I'm not breaking the law in any way. I was only distributing information regarding Kozlov's trial.
A festive evening in Aktobe ended in a shootout. The conflict resulted in 2 deaths, while 6 people were hospitalized with stab and gunshot wounds.
The incident took place in a private house where residents were celebrating their son's birthday and admission to the University of China. The guests got into an argument, with one of them pulling out a gun and shooting his insulter. As a result, 8 people with various wounds were taken to a hospital. 2 victims, including the local TV anchorman Umar Ibragimov, died. 9 people aged 18 to 28 were arrested as suspects. The investigative team has been set up, the suspects are currently identified and the causes of conflict investigated. A criminal case on charges of manslaughter and hooliganism has been initiated.
The Union of Muslims of Kazakhstan accuses Karasay district governor in Almaty region of aiding terrorism. Together with the Muslim Committee for Human Rights, the union contacted law enforcement agencies demanding to prosecute Amangildi Dauranbayev for inciting social hatred and pandering to religious extremism.
Public activists made this conclusion having analyzed recent events that took place in the Karasay district, namely the massacre of 11 people in the Ile-Alatau National Park and the special operation in the summer house settlement Tan, during which 9 alleged terrorists were killed. The Muslims Union described the current situation as lawlessness and outrage, warning that dissident and protest moods of local residents could lead to direct clashes in time. I believe it is possible that officials could turn a blind eye and even create favorable conditions for the development of extremism organizations through bribery and monetary injections due to increasing corruption in Kazakhstan. The burial ceremonies for the victims of the Ile-Alatau National Park massacre were held last Friday. The burial of huntsman Panayot Zakharopoulos and his civil partner Irina Karpenko was attended by their families and colleagues from the Forestry and Hunting Committee. 1 week since the tragedy, the investigation is still to come up with a clear version of events or name any of the suspects. It is known that detectives are actively searching for the huntsman's elder son, Igor Zakharopoulos. Some observers fear the repeat of the Arkan-Kirgen tragedy, as the killed huntsman's friends suspect that if Igor managed to survive the massacre, he could be turned into a suspect, just like what happened with Vladislav Chelak.
In the meantime, video of the explosion of a house in the village of Tan near Almaty appeared on the internet. All roads were blocked at 5 in the morning. The house, which according to preliminary data contained militants, was burned down. 9 suspected terrorists were neutralized.
According to law enforcement agencies, the operation was planned for a long time. Internet news site Guljan.org reported about a theory linking terrorists from Tan and Tausamal and the activities of armed religious groups in the area. The criminals also rented a house which was burned to the ground as a result, with the remains of 9 bodies found at the site sent for examination. According to prosecutors, the victims were somehow involved in July's Tausamal blast, which left 7 dead. Some of the law enforcement officers still believe that terrorists were preparing for an assassination attempt against President Nazarbayev, who was planned to pass the area.
Experts and analysts claim Kazakhstan's security forces are not ready to face terrorists. The latest events in Almaty region showed that the police rarely take preventive measures and only react to emergencies by way of special security operations. Only then is work with the agency network stepped up. Former military and political scientists do not rule out the increase of terrorist acts in the country under this scenario.
Special forces responsible for this operation were heavily criticized for unprofessional handling of the situation, with the main criteria the number of casualties among soldiers. Let's put me in the shoes of the commander, and in my case the operation would be considered very effective due to the lack of casualties. But from the point of view of investigators, the operation was very ineffective. If I were him, I'd say the operation reached its goal. The terrorists were neutralized. Thankfully, the losses were kept to the minimum. I believe that we need to protect the interests of citizens of Kazakhstan, although both sides represented this. But I believe that people serving and protecting the country should be always given the first priority. All the time we read and watch news about explosions in apartment buildings and neutralized terrorists, etc. Does it mean that we are in constant reactive mode and oftentimes we act at 11th hour? This is the issue that really does raise questions.
Experts forecast a scenario of conservative evolution for Kazakhstan in the near future. Speakers at the launch of the report, titled Central Asia 2020, a look from within, said on Monday that integration with Central Asian states should not be expected. According to the forecast, many former Soviet bloc nations may become unstable.
There is a great number of objective factors that will make the international environment in which Kazakhstan will exist more uncertain and unpredictable. This, for instance, includes the definite change of political leaders in neighboring states. This is going to happen in Uzbekistan for sure. Experts also highlighted the growing threat to the security of the region, with one factor cited as the spread of Islamic radicalism. The danger of this process relates to the possible politicization of religion and the emergence of a powerful political force apparent against the weakening government and public bodies. Asylbek Bisintayev, the chief editor of the newspaper Komsomolskaya Pravda, says the threat of radicalization came to be recently after a series of terrorist attacks and extremism trials. The expert believes the issue has been brewing since the 1990s, but so far the government has not found the right solution. Religious growth was not only triggered by the state policy and individual public associations. In other words, it was a general trend that has led to the current state of affairs. In this case, the government is trying to regulate the religious situation in the country. However, it doesn't happen smoothly and often leads to a negative result.
In other news, Muslims of Kazakhstan are celebrating the three-day holiday Oraza Eid, which began on August 19th. It is customary to perform good deeds, care for your close ones, and help those in need on the closing days of the great fast of Ramadan.
During the holidays, Muslims usually wear their best garments, cook traditional meals, and pay each other visits. They also visit resting places of their loved ones, offer their alms to the poor, and ask each other for forgiveness.
Kazakhstan's foreign ministry is intervening in the scandalous case of Russia's punk band Pussy Riot. The ministry's official spokesman Altai Abibulaev said at a weekly briefing with journalists, the MFA will verify information on the detention of the band's supporter from Kazakhstan in Moscow. Earlier, 3 band members were sentenced to 2 years in prison for their protest action in the Christ the Savior Cathedral.
In late February, Nadezhda Tolokonnikova, Maria Alyokhina and Yekaterina Samutsevich staged a punk prayer in Moscow's Cathedral of Christ the Savior, wearing balaclavas and performing the song Mother of God, Chase Putin Away. According to the band, this was a protest against the church and state merger with no intention to offend Christian believers. The edited video of the song was later posted on the internet. In March, the participants of the performance were charged with hooliganism, and the ensuing trial stayed quite a reaction. Sting, Paul McCartney and Madonna, among many other celebrities, spoken in support of Pussy Riot. Even some of the Orthodox Church representatives appealed to the authorities, asking them to pardon the trio. The girls themselves, who instantly became famous, completely refused to play for pardon. Tatiana Romanova, presumably a citizen of Kazakhstan residing in Moscow, also spoken in support of the arrested girls and then was detained by the police. The foreign ministry said to be working on verifying the information. We've sent an inquiry to the law enforcement authorities in Moscow requesting to provide us with necessary documents confirming whether Tatiana Romanova is indeed a citizen of Kazakhstan. We will immediately report on the matter once we receive the information.
Tatiana Romanova confirmed her citizenship on our channel, but announced that she has no intention to return to Kazakhstan, not having violated any immigration laws.
The Pussy Riot fan is a native of Karaganda who has been living in Moscow for 4 years, working as a journalist. The woman was detained on Friday near the Khamovnichesky court during the announcement of the verdict to band members. Apparently, Romanova climbed the fence of the Turkish embassy, chanted "Free Pussy Riot," and waved a poster "Shame on Russia." Eventually, police detained her and took to the station for the night. Romanova now faces administrative charges with the trial scheduled for August 23rd. I did not violate the migration procedures and I have all legal rights to be in Russia. There is no reason for deporting me. I am liable just like all citizens of the Russian Federation. No one is going to deport me back to Kazakhstan. The trial will be held on Wednesday.
Shareholders have once again stormed the government building on Monday. Upwards of 30 people brought statements to the Prime Minister's office insisting that not only do their problems remain unsolved, but the situation is exacerbated by local authorities' improper actions. The next story from Astana has more.
The state must pay me a compensation or just erase my house and throw my 10 children on the street then. Real estate interest holders from Astana demand their representatives to be included in the State Commission under the Prime Minister. According to the outraged protesters at the government palace, unoccupied apartments are distributed among people not mentioned once in the shareholders' agreements. Prime Minister's representative attempted to calm everyone down after the authorities have been accused of corruption. Many of the issues have been resolved. Before we had more than 40,000 complaining interest holders, whereas now we're left with only about 405. So it's wrong to say that nothing is done. Yes, we still have some problems that cannot be resolved, so to say, in one easy step. The delegates, however, were not impressed with the officials' explanations. In response to the promise to find a solution, they shouted, "Masimov is afraid of Tasmagambetov." Zhana Kurlis construction company that is responsible for the construction and distribution of disputed apartments is allegedly affiliated with the city administration, and the State Commission has turned a blind eye on it, the protesters explain. Now people ask the authorities why the situation has not been taken under control and in the last 3 years. People are desperate. If the authorities won't listen to us, we will have to rebel, like in Zhanaozen or Kyrgyzstan, because otherwise they will never listen. They're not getting it any other way. According to the protesters, the state bodies are to blame for social destabilization. People are forced into confrontations when apartments are distributed not among interest holders who already pay their money for housing and never saw it, but instead to absolutely unrelated individuals.
Almaty residents oppose the construction of dry cleaning near their multi-apartment block, as residents say the land must belong to the owners of the apartments. However, city administration sold the land plot to the citizen of a foreign country 2 years ago.
People are worried that all greenery will be removed and the developer will block the access to the street with the new building. Local residents repeatedly approached all officials, but the State Architecture and Construction Supervision Department issued a permission for the construction, while the Department of Supervision of Natural Resources approved the deforestation of the area. It is clear that there should be a pavement sidewalk here. I believe we don't have a critical need for a dry cleaning shop in the area. We live in a large residential neighborhood, but in small apartments, not big expensive ones. This construction will remove all the greenery. According to the law on housing relations, the land belongs to the state, which is responsible for the proper maintenance of it, but the city administration sold it to third parties.
Kazakh universities are to become independent and taught in 3 languages: Kazakh, Russian, and English. This know-how will be introduced gradually, with languages to be instituted by 2013, while in 2014, higher education institutions will transfer to corporate management. This was voiced by Education Minister Bakajan Zhomagulov on Monday. Previously, it was reported that universities will become independent only in 2016.
At the opening ceremony of the Eurasian Higher Education Leaders Forum, Zhomagulov explained that Nazarbayev University will serve as an example, being completely independent in staff recruitment as well as its financial and economic activities. The ministry apparently decided to expedite the process in order to improve the world rankings. At present, only 2 Kazakhstan's universities are listed among the top 450 higher education facilities of the world, and the rest fall far behind. Present American colleagues shared their negative experience. U.S. education ministry officials were affected by such independence, which caused numerous service violations. The local Ministry of Education and Science have taken the warning into account, but didn't dismiss the idea completely. Of course, the role of corporate governance will be expanded, and in the end, we would have to grant autonomy to universities. Currently, there are supervisory boards operating in 4 of the local universities to properly and smoothly implement this work in future.
The boxing center in Karaganda was renamed after Olympic champion Serik Sapiyev. Over the weekend, Serik was greeted in his hometown of Abay.
The Olympic champion made a victory lap around the Shakhter Stadium in an open cabriolet accompanied by bikers. Karaganda residents rose to greet their fellow countrymen. Serik Akhmetov, the first vice prime minister, was also present in Karaganda to extend his greetings to the Olympic medal winner. Abelgazi Kusainov handed the athlete the keys to a Toyota Land Cruiser 200 on behalf of all citizens of the region. Alexander Strelnikov, the champion's coach, was awarded a certificate worth $20,000. The ranks of the honored citizen of Karaganda region was specifically established for the occasion, with the first honor going to the champion and his mentor. The city's boxing center was renamed after Serik Sapiyev, who not only won the gold medal in London, but was also awarded a Val Barker trophy for showing a great style. I'm very happy and I believe I deserved it. The boxing center used to have the name of Nura. I'm happy that my name will go down in history of the Karaganda region.
Victory events in honor of the Olympic winners are held across the entire country. Over the weekend, a concert was held in Astana with 16,000 people in attendance. The president and the defense minister both congratulated the athletes. Karaganda residents Serik Sapiyev and Olga Rypakova from Uсть-Kamenogorsk were awarded the ranks of captains. Since both are members of the Central Sports Army Club, Almaty's cycling club was also named after the London Olympics gold medal winner Alexander Vinokurov. Ilya Ilyin, the weightlifter from Kızılorda, was presented with valuable gifts from the governor and shared the news of his upcoming wedding, scheduled for September 9th.
Finally, Almaty residents were able to attend the third international festival 4E, during which it was prohibited to drink and smoke altogether.
The festival site was split into 4 zones, each offering its own program, which included psychological workshops, masterclasses, as well as performances by Kazakhstan and foreign musicians. Visitors could buy unique craftworks handmade by festival participants. At the end, the audience was treated with a bonfire and a juggling performance with fireworks.
This is all we have time for now. Thank you for watching. We will see you tomorrow.